Well, I've started starting my workshops with funk music, and it is great. It's like boogie on down. Everybody laughs at me while I'm dancing.
Hey, ladies. Hi. Welcome to our Monday Motivation. Susan and I decided to start dancing for you guys before we even get started with our Monday Motivation series. You don't even need music. You can just jam out whenever you want to. Yeah. We hope that brings you guys joy. We hope that it brings you a lot of smiling also. So welcome, everyone. I am Violette Ayala. I'm the founder of FemCity, and you're joining me for our Monday Motivation. Every Monday I hop on here and I have beautiful guests that can share inspiration, motivation, and some really great practical tips for us. And today I have Susan Rose. She is one of our global members. She's amazing. She's taught so many classes for our femmes. They continuously rave about her. Her jam is actually copy to sell, copy to convert, email marketing. She's done a couple of classes on email marketing, how to create really good email copy that actually converts into money in your pocket. Anything you want to add to that, Susan, except for a dance?
Dance? Well, you got a boogie. I mean, a big part of all of that, what I'm teaching, I'm a writer, I do all those kinds of things. But the real secret sauce of all of that is learning how to tell your story and to really be yourself. So one of the big things that is a component in everything I do with my clients is tapping into that authenticity. And I don't love that word anymore, but
I know, because it's overplayed. It's like everyone's using it now. It used to be like, but now it's like everyone's saying it. So,
yeah. But, it's accurate. So I really help people, women especially, figure that out. Like, what is the real story there? And then when you get that and you start telling it, like everything just starts shifting.
Love it. All right. So, and usually if you guys know Susan, that's what she teaches. That's what she talks about, speaks, coaches for FemCity and for others around the world. But today we're actually going to mix it up a little bit because we're celebrating gratitude in the month of November. If you're part of FemCity, you know that we do gratitude all the time. We incorporate it into our curriculum in our program. But the month of November, we're going even more focused in on gratitude. And today, Susan and I are going to chat about how to focus on the good. We know that it's been a rocky year for, I would say, everyone. Usually it's like just for many, but no, I would say it's a rocky year for everyone. And so I'm going to ask Susan questions that will share with you guys ways that we can go ahead and focus on the good during this time. I love this time, by the way. I think you and I have talked about in the past, Susan. I love this time of the year. I spend the most time reflecting on what's working, what's not working, where I want to be in 2021. Professionally, personally. And so this is, I just go into like, not in a hibernation mode, but I really go into like a really deep self-reflection. And so I'm so happy that you're going to help us today with how to focus on the good, because I think you can't really focus on that unless you start focusing on the good.
Well, yeah, I mean, they go together, and finding the part that is good in the muck and the bad and the sludge, which this is the perfect time of year to do that. The shadow work. It's like what's going on underneath there.
The shadow work. Yeah, absolutely. That's a Deepak Chopra. Did you read that book from Deepak Chopra?
I do have that book from him. I'm in many circles where the shadow work is a very big deal. So, and this is the time where to do it.
Yes. And you already have some love coming through from Sarah Strammel in Memphis, Tennessee. She's saying, I need this. Thank you. She did a little smile too. So thank you so much, Sarah. And for those of you, yes, exactly. For those of you that are going to be joining us live, feel free to ask questions or comment if you want to join the conversation. If you're watching this in the replay, whether it's an hour from now or 5 hours or 5 weeks, 5 years, feel free to continuously reach out to us. Our intention is to help you. So we love to make sure that we're doing that. So let's dive in a little bit. You talked a little bit why it's important to focus on the good, but I want to really illustrate this for those that are hopping on. Why is it important? It's just because I think some humans are like, whatever, I'm just going to focus on, like, I don't need to be intentional or purposeful or focus on the good or the woo-woo stuff, as some may say. But why do you think it's important to focus on the good?
Because what you think about is what you manifest. It's that simple, really. So when you're focusing on the good, even their horrible situations, and I just want to be clear, I don't think either one of us is talking about being a Pollyanna and pretending like there isn't bad stuff in the world, because there is. But focusing on what lessons you can take out of it, what you can learn and what is good, keeps you in that vibration of moving forward and allowing more good to come in. And I've noticed for myself that when I sit back and look at these situations that were awful and find, okay, what are these silver linings? What lessons have I learned? It really helps me reframe, and I have reframed some big, hairy mistakes I have made throughout my business that I now see, for the guidance they gave me and ultimately getting me to where I am today, which is the place I want to be. And without all those, if I hadn't been able to see the good in these things that had happened, I wouldn't be here. So I think it's just really important, and then really keep your motivation up, because owning a business, y'all, you probably know this by now, it's a marathon. It's not for the weak of heart or faint of heart, and there are going to be setbacks. There just are. So learning how to focus on what's good out of them is going to make a big difference. And I say that from being a business owner for 20 years.
Yeah. You have Nancy, who runs our South Bend, Indiana chapter, said, "Thank you for the distinction between being Pollyanna and focusing on the good." And I was literally going to pull that out, Nancy. So I'm so happy that you brought that in. I was going to pull that out because I think that, in the past, when we've done some of the spiritual kind of classes or topics, we've had some femmes that say, "I feel like I'm faking it. Like, I feel like it's not real." Right. And so I'm glad that you mentioned that, because it's not saying that we're pretending that things are roses. It's not pretending like things are oh my gosh, they're fantastic as I struggle to pay for my mortgage or my rent. Like, it's not pretending. Yeah. It's knowing that, yes, there's some yuck going on. And I think you said sludge at the beginning. Sludge. I love that.
Well, yeah, and you have to go into it. So it's also not about glossing over it. Like, well, I'm just going to pretend like that's not happening. Right. Move forward. It's like, if something like major is going on, let yourself feel it. We are humans with a full human experience, and acknowledging that is really important. So I'm glad we're sidetracked on this a little bit, but I think that's a really important conversation when you're talking about gratitude and positive thinking, is to acknowledge that we need to feel the feels.
Right. And you know what? I didn't really realize that. I have to say, and some of my girlfriends from childhood or even from, 10, 15 years ago will know that I had a permanent set of rose-colored glasses on my head. I literally had them on, and I could see only beauty. I could only see beautiful things. And that was a coping mechanism from my childhood, right? So my mother having mental illness, her drug addiction, I had to have those on in order to survive. And so I remember realizing that that's not healthy. I got to a point in my mid-30s, by the way. So it wasn't like I was in my early 20s. I was like pushing 40 when I realized these glasses, they were coping mechanisms when I was a young child, to go through that abuse, but they are not serving me right now. Like, I need to. And I remember just acknowledging, and then being that person that was like, well, I can't pretend anymore. So if they were that person, I'm saying that to you, or we're saying that to you, that it's part of that journey that sometimes you have to remove and say, okay, there's a lot of yuck coming around. You let me focus on. So I know we went off topic there, but I agree with you. I think it's important for that, because
Violet.
Well, because if not, people are going to shoot, people are going to be like, oh, whatever, like, I can't. But the truth is, like, it's, to go through the yuck, you have to realize that you're not faking it. You just have to process it. And you mentioned a little bit also, I want to pull out changing the narrative, retweaking it, remaking it, so that you can process, I believe, the stuff that's.
Yeah. And there's a lot of ways, again, gets into a complicated topic. Sometimes you can't change that narrative until you're out of the story, and trust me, I have tried when I'm in the muck to start framing it like, I'm going to pull my lessons out now. And, until you're through it, you can't always do that. But you absolutely, once you're through any situation, whether it happened 40 years ago or yesterday,
right,
you have the ability to choose how you frame that story and what that means to you and to who you are. And it can be something that moves you forward in life, or it can be something that keeps you stuck where you are and back in life. And, and I see a lot of entrepreneurs stay stuck there. The thing isn't working. And so,
And it's tough. It's like you mentioned, it's tough to have your own business. It's tough to be an entrepreneur. I will, and you mentioned a little bit also about, working on your business at this point, because it's towards the end of the year. It's a great time for all of us to reflect and see what's working. I always think, well, I know every single mistake I've ever made, or when things didn't go right in business, for me, it has always turned out to be a blessing years later. I don't see it, as you just said right now. You're not in the story, right? In the story, you're still crying. You're like, what? It's just after that you're able to look back and go, okay, I understand. This actually did serve me in some way. You have more love coming through from Sarah. Sarah says, honoring your feelings and letting it teach you hopes you grow and live intentionally, mindfully, impactfully. Beautiful. Yes, Sarah. Typo. I didn't even notice your typos, Sarah. That's like
typos.
Susan will, though.
Yeah, I love typos. As the world's worst proofreader. Bring on typos.
I'm the worst. All right, so let's talk about how does it help us in business. You talked a little bit about the vibration, the energy. You talked a touch about manifestation also. So let's dive in a little bit and see what are some ways that we can go ahead and focus on the good for those that are really trying to leverage this time to perhaps, now that we're trying to step out of the muck, right? So as we close out the year, what are some things that femmes can do to really focus on the good so that it helps them in business, it helps them in life, so they can end the year on the best note they can?
Yeah, well, I think that, this year being so extra, as would say, has given us a lot of opportunities. You hear the stories of people who have been able to pivot and change something in their business. So I think that, I know for me and many of my friends, what this year has done, the last 9 months have done, is really show us where we can make serious process improvements, maybe go into another direction that we were a little bit afraid of going or didn't really see before, to explode our businesses in 2021. And I think that that's where the focusing on the good, especially if this year comes in, it's like we have the opportunity to look back at everything. It's like, okay, how resilient was it from March, April, May, and every month along the way? And what is that telling me about how I'm running things? So for example, for me, at the beginning of COVID and the quarantine, my business wasn't impacted at all. And I was very grateful and fortunate about that. And it's like, woo, I'm getting through this, no big deal. And then in September, it all tanked. And so I could be bummed out about that, which, it is a bit of a bummer. But what it's telling me is what the cycle of my business and how I sell is. And it's informing me over the next few months, like, okay, how do I nurture my relationships? How do I speak to people, knowing what the cycle of my business is and how things move through it. So that's really going to help me in 2021, I think, come in stronger and have a stronger plan. So that's the kind of thing when I'm saying, to focus on the good about it is what is everything that happened, what is it telling you? And I have many friends who have pivoted that, had brick and mortar type businesses and went online, and what have they learned from that experience? And it's all, it's all good stuff. And I also have friends who've learned they were done. Right. That the business that they had for 15, 20 years had run its course. And this was the right time to exit it and do something else, which is also a decision, and have very positive outcomes as long as you're doing it intentionally.
Yeah, I love those examples. And you have more. Sarah says that's exactly when mine slowed down too. I think September slowed down for us at FemCity also. I think the reality is that people thought we were going to be out of this. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then we weren't. And then people were like, oh, you know what I mean? So I think because September was a big, for so many of us, right. But I think that's what it was. I remember even energetically, I have to say, I remember energetically, I felt like it was just so heavy that month because it was the realization that we're in this for, a little bit longer. And to create that realization that the new normal is it's literally going to be the new normal.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I felt that too. And I think that's what a lot of that was about. So now we get to take that information and decide how we're going to use it going forward. So that's really exciting. As entrepreneurs, we create things. What reality are we going to create for ourselves? in the coming year.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I owned my Pilates studio, like forever ago, 20 years ago, must have been. Yeah, because my daughter's 21, so 20 something years ago. November, December, my first couple years in business, November, December would always slow down. Always slow down. And my students would say, no, I want, keep the classes away because I want to be here, And it wasn't until year 3 that I realized they love classes and they want to be here, but they're not going to be here. So I started realizing that. And then like in November, I would just shut down the studio. We'd run like half, the level of classes, half the instructors, because I knew, and then I'd keep the money. Like I knew I had to keep more in the bank to maintain, payroll and all of our expenses. But it took me like 2 years or 3 years because they would say something. They would say like, no, keep the classes. I really want to be here. And I'd keep them and we'd keep all the staff. But then all of a sudden it was like year 2, year 3, I was like, okay, I know you say that, but now I'm looking back and all that pain that I had, I don't think that's true. So sometimes it takes a couple of years to figure that pattern out.
Well, it does. And, and the example you just gave is great. We have a similar thing in the massage clinic that we own, but it doesn't have to be a brick and mortar business, brick and mortar business for that to be the pattern, So this is a really great time to look at what are your clients saying versus what are they doing and what works for you and, how are you going to use that?
Yeah. And I love that you shared that it's a good time to exit for many that have been already kind of running it and not maybe as passionate about it. And then if you don't pick up the passion during that beginning of that pandemic where you're like, okay, let me tweak, let me pivot, let me see what I can do that brings me joy. Like all those exercises that we all did to kind of navigate that time. There are a lot of businesses in Miami and a lot of my friends that were like, you know what, I'm not into it anymore. Like I really am passionate about making pillows, or I'm really passionate about, coaching or whatever. So I've seen a lot of that. And it's a great year, by the way, for change. It's a great way to kind of use it as an excuse to be like, yeah, that didn't serve me anymore.
Oh yeah, no, I think that's a really beautiful thing. I mean, man, the change that's gone on in my life this year is like mind blowing, and none of it would have happened if it weren't for, the whole COVID situation. So it's all ultimately good.
Yeah. So you have more love. All right. So let's see. Nancy says the challenge is to make the decisions within uncertainty, not waiting for things to normalize.
Yes.
We love that. And Sarah says, I agree, Nancy. And then Nancy added, love the idea of stepping back and analyzing what the info is telling us about our business. I have found that to be, I have to say, the data always knows. Like the data just doesn't lie. Numbers don't lie. What are you going to say?
I said, yes. I'm loving you so much right now. That's why I throw so much data into everything I do with my clients. It's like, so for email marketing, right? How many people, if I go up to on the street and say, oh, do you love getting emails? They're all going to be like, I hate it. I don't want to get any of them. Well, you know what? The data does not support that at all. Seriously does not support that. So the data, so follow the data, listen to what those numbers are telling you because they're not lying.
Yeah, numbers don't lie. That has always been like tried and true. Even like when you look at your analytics for over the last year, emails included, look to see because that all of that really does not lie. So I'm a huge believer in that.
Sometimes.
What?
I wish it did sometimes.
I know. The other day there was a spike in our website. It was like great because even our website traffic, right? So our website traffic was here and it just went woo, and all of a sudden it was here and it went spiked right up. But just spiked right up, and I was like, that can't be. I mean, like because usually it kind of naturally goes up, in the data, the tracking, and I think it's a fluke. I'm like, I don't think that many people clicked. We have high traffic, but not like that. That's something happened. I don't know really what happened there, but yeah.
Weird things can happen for sure.
Exactly. It's 2020, of course. Yeah. I've lowered I told someone the other day, I've lowered my expectations so low that I have joy all the time. I think at the beginning I was like expecting so much, and my husband would say to me, you need to lower your expectations, lower them. So they're like right here, and I'm always happy now. So
always be happy. Yeah.
Exactly. Any final advice that you have for femmes looking to focus on the good?
Yeah, well, I think I like what you just said about, resetting your expectations for what does make you joyful and finding that in the little things. I think right now a lot of us aren't having the big experiences. In my world, that's a lot of travel, and a primary reason I work and I love what I do, but I do it for the big celebrations, and they're not happening this year. So how can you go back, and keeping that gratitude journal? I know you've talked about it. I know everybody, in FemCity talks about it, but, I keep it I have an online, an app on my phone, gratitude journal, so I can pop stuff in there all the time and with photos. And it makes such a huge difference to be able to just keep track of all these things. And I go back and I look at it and I pull up the pictures and stuff like that. It's like, okay, this has been a really good year.
Yeah.
And I think that for those keeping that kind of journal, you will also notice a lot of good stuff is happening.
Absolutely. I have two. I mentioned this the other day and I thought I had mentioned it before, but apparently I had not. I have two. I have the journal, like my personal journal, where I write the gratitude down, and that's basically personal and business. But then I got this one, my super snazzy one from Target, which, nothing fancy, but I love the font. And that one I actually do for business, because I found that a couple years ago, I'd get to Friday and I'd feel like I didn't do anything. And when I write down all of the great things that happened during the week, business-wise, like the podcast or, getting into certain magazines or newspapers, if I write down the little things like that, not little, I mean, those are big things, but writing them down in my notebook, at the end of the week, when I start feeling like that, like, oh my gosh, another week, I look back and like, oh my gosh, it was a great week. It was a really great week, like all these great things that happen with work, because you'll forget them. And then that mind might kind of spiral out into that negativity where it's like, oh my gosh, another week. And then you can look at it and say, no, I actually had a really great week. Look at all these amazing things that happened. I met so-and-so, we collaborated, we partnered. So I actually now have two as the last couple of years, but I'm mentioning it because the other day I mentioned it. And some of the femmes were like, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. Why didn't you ever tell me that before? I'm like, what? I thought I did. So just mentioning it again.
Yeah, and that's such a great idea too, because it is human nature to kind of, whatever the most recent experience you had is the one that kind of stays
strongest. Right.
So if something negative has happened, you've lost a sale or somebody canceled, something you were excited about, it's really easy to kind of like fall down into that, especially if that happens on a Friday, at least for me.
Yeah.
So having that list, and and that stuff happens for business owners.
Right. Right.
So having that list of everything that's happened, I don't keep a separate one for business, and I'm thinking that that's a great idea. I've gotten better about celebrating everything and jotting stuff down, but I still have work to do toward that, so that you remember, how great everything is, and it is great. So much good stuff happens all the time.
So much. Sarah wants to know what the app is called, the one that you use for your gratitude.
That is a great question. I can't. It changed.
We'll find it later.
Yeah, I'll post it in there. If you just search for gratitude apps, it's one. It looks like a little Buddha guy. He's like in blue, or it's a blue background with a little Buddha, and it's like $3.99 a year or something.
Okay, perfect. All right, Sarah, let us know. If not, we can.
Yeah, I actually have it written down somewhere because somebody asked me the other day, so I was just going to take some digging around to where I wrote that down. So I'll post it in the comments.
I'm going to look for it because I love a blue Buddha. I'm like, I already see the logo in my head, so now I have to see it.
This little thing on Earth. So I love it.
I got a big Buddha head for my office at an estate sale last week. I cannot wait to put it up in my study room, guest room, wherever room, multi-purpose room. Anyway, this was so great. You have Sarah gives a thumbs up. Susan, thank you so much for joining us. And for those that want to learn more about you, you guys can see why we love her so much, right? Like, she has the best energy ever. For those that want to connect with you, you're on the FemCity Experts and Teachers page, but perhaps they want to connect with you directly. How can they find you?
Well, you can always PM me on Facebook. That's the easy way to do it. If you find my profile in any of the FemCity places. My website is susanrose.net. You can go there and you will learn that I need to update it.
Yeah, but didn't you have like a thing on the website where people could go? I'm trying to think, like, you had something there recently that we went, I'm always there because you're a teacher for us, and I'm always going to kind of add it to our marketing. But anyway, we will visit you over there, Susan. This is great.
PM me. I'll track you down.
Hunt you down.
Hunt you down.
Dance for you. Just add send you like FaceTimes of just dancing.
I'm telling you, come to my workshops and programs and stuff, and I do dance for you. I even put the music on.
That's going to be better than what we just did.
I've got a lot of room in here. Be down.
All right, so yeah, Nancy says thank you, great Monday motivation, and then Patricia, great way to kick off Monday. Thank you so much, ladies. We are so happy that you joined us. And again, if you're watching the replay later on, feel free to join the conversation. It is never too late to hop on over and join us. So thank you so much, Susan. Bye, everyone. Have a great week.
Bye, everybody. See you later. Bye.
Bye.